Everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever made a late night run to the corner store? Just a quick stop, some noodles, maybe a drink. Nothing unusual. But sometimes, the places we think are safe, are hiding something. At the corner of Elm and Maple sits a stop and shop like any other. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, aisles of junk food, cold drinks humming in the back. It's the kind of place you walk into without thinking, but maybe you should. Because tonight, something is watching. Something inhuman. When a college student walks in for a caffeine fix, he expects nothing more than a sleepy cashier and overpriced snacks. But what he finds lurking in the shadows, just out of sight, is something ancient. Something cold. Something that doesn't want him to leave. And when it finally shows its face, it may already be too late. So get comfortable, but not too comfortable. Because after this story, you might think twice about those late-night errands. Turn down the lights. Grab your snacks. And whatever you do, don't look into the dark corner of the room. This is late-night horror at the corner store, and some shadows were never meant to be seen.
The fluorescent lights of the stop and shop hummed with the monotonous rhythm of suburban life. Situated on the corner of Elm and Maple, it was the quintessential convenience store, a beacon of brightly lit normalcy against the creeping darkness of night. Rows of candy bars stood in perfect formation, coolers buzzed with promises of icy refreshment, and the air hung thick with the scent of stale coffee and lottery tickets. It was the kind of place you'd pop into without a second thought. A quick stop on the way home, a mundane transaction in the grand theater of everyday life. Usually, the stop and shop was populated by a cast of familiar characters. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly lady who always bought a single banana and a newspaper. The high school kids stocking up on sugary snacks before hitting the arcade, and the tired construction workers grabbing a six-pack after a long day. Tonight, however, it was unusually deserted. I was just another nameless face, a 20-year-old college student running low on ramen and desperately needing a caffeine fix before another all-nighter. I grabbed a couple of instant noodle packets and a can of energy drink, heading toward the checkout counter. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, the sound echoing in the otherwise silent store. Mr. Kim, the owner, stood behind the counter, his face a permanent map of fatigue. As I approached, he hardly looked up, his gaze fixed on a small television showing horse racing. "Just these?" he mumbled, his voice raspy. "Yeah, that's it," I replied, placing my meager purchases on the counter. As Mr. Kim rang me up, a peculiar sensation washed over me. It wasn't a loud noise or a sudden movement, just a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a feeling of being watched. A prickling unease crawled beneath my skin. I shivered, despite the store being comfortably warm. I glanced around, trying to pinpoint the source of my discomfort. The aisles were empty, the refrigerated cases hummed steadily, and Mr. Kim remained engrossed in the race. "Just tired, I guess," I muttered, dismissing it as stress and lack of sleep. But the feeling persisted, intensifying with each passing second. My heart began to pound. My palms grew clammy. Something was definitely wrong. Then I saw it. Just a fleeting glimpse, a flicker at the periphery of my vision, in the shadowed corner near the back of the store. A dark shape, indistinct and amorphous, lingered just beyond the edge of sight. When I tried to focus on it directly, it melted away, disappearing into the gloom. Did you see that?" I stammered, turning to Mr. Kim. He looked up, his eyes blinking in confusion. "See what? You okay, kid?" "There's something in the corner," I said, gesturing vaguely toward the back. "A shadow. Did you see it?" Mr. Kim followed my gaze, his expression shifting from confusion to annoyance. Look, I don't have time for games. Pay for your stuff and go. I got a race to bet on. I paid, my eyes darting nervously toward the shadowed corner. The shape was gone, but the feeling of being watched remained, a heavy weight pressing down on me. I hurried out of the store, the bell above the door jingling a final farewell. The cool night air was a welcome relief, but it did little to dispel the growing sense of dread that had taken root in my mind. Over the next few days, I tried to convince myself I'd imagined it all, that the shadow was just a trick of the light, a figment of my sleep-deprived imagination. But the memory of that fleeting glimpse, the chilling sensation of being watched, refused to fade. Each time I passed the Stop and Shop, I felt a pang of unease. I started taking a different route home, avoiding the corner of Elm and Maple altogether. But the fear lingered, a constant companion in the back of my mind. One night, driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, I decided to confront my anxieties. I told myself I'd go into the store again, prove there was nothing there, and finally put the whole thing behind me. As I approached the Stop and Shop, the fluorescent lights seemed to flicker ominously. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, and the usual hum of the refrigerators sounded distorted, like a low, guttural growl. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door handle. A cold dread washed over me, urging me to turn back, but I forced myself to push the door open. The bell jingled a hollow greeting. The store was empty. Mr. Kim was nowhere to be seen, and the aisles stood in eerily perfect order. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerators, now more menacing than ever. I took a tentative step inside, my heart pounding. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. "Mr. Kim?" Silence. I walked farther into the store, my eyes scanning the aisles. Everything seemed normal, yet profoundly wrong. The air was heavy with foreboding, a palpable darkness pressing in from all sides. Then I saw it again. The shadow. It was in the same corner as before, but this time more defined, more substantial. It writhed and shifted like smoke caught in a draft, its form constantly changing, yet always vaguely humanoid. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to run, but I was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. The shadow seemed to sense me. It turned, and I felt its gaze, cold and malevolent, piercing through me like a shard of ice. A wave of nausea washed over me as the temperature plummeted. I could see my breath fogging the air. The humming of the refrigerators intensified, building to a deafening roar. Then the objects in the store began to move. Candy bars tumbled from shelves. Cans rattled and danced. Magazines flew through the air like startled birds. I finally found my voice, a strangled whimper barely escaping my lips. What are you?" I gasped. The shadow didn't answer, but its form began to coalesce, growing taller, more imposing. This dark silhouette loomed over me. Then I saw its face, or rather, the absence of one. Where a face should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of darkness, a void that seemed to suck the light from the room. A voice filled my mind, not spoken aloud, but planted directly in my consciousness. It was devoid of warmth or emotion, a cold, echoing whisper that spoke of ancient evils and unspeakable horrors. "You should not have come back," the voice intoned. I stumbled backward, desperate to escape, but the shadow moved with me, always just out of reach. "This place is mine," the voice continued, "and now you are too." Suddenly, the store plunged into total darkness. The fluorescent lights flickered and died. The humming ceased, and I was left alone in the suffocating blackness, with the lurking shadow. I don't know how long I was there. Time lost meaning, replaced by a primal terror that consumed my every thought. I could feel its presence all around me, a cold, suffocating weight pressing on my soul. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the darkness lifted. The lights flickered back on. The refrigerators resumed their hum. The shadow was gone. I was lying on the floor, gasping for air, my body trembling. I scrambled to my feet, my eyes darting around. Everything was back in its place, as if nothing had happened. Except me. I was changed, forever scarred by what I had seen. I knew I could never look at the Stop and Shop the same way again. I stumbled out into the night, running all the way home, never stopping until I was safely locked inside my apartment. I never saw Mr. Kim again. The Stop and Shop remained open, but under a new owner. I heard rumors that Mr. Kim had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a cryptic note and a store full of unanswered questions. To this day, I still wonder what happened that night. What was the shadow? Where did it come from? And what did it want? Was it a malevolent spirit trapped within the walls of that convenience store? A remnant of some ancient evil, drawn to the mundane world by some unknown force? Or something even more sinister, something that defied explanation? I may never know. But one thing is certain: the ordinary world is not always what it seems. There are unseen forces at play, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal themselves. And sometimes, all it takes is a quick trip to the corner store to catch a glimpse of the darkness that lies just beneath the surface of reality. So the next time you find yourself alone in a quiet place late at night, listen closely, look carefully, because you never know what might be lurking in the shadows, waiting for you to notice it. And once you do, it may already be too late. Are you sure there isn't something you haven't noticed?
Some stories offer closure. Some give us answers, explanations, or at least a way to make sense of the darkness. But this one? It leaves us with questions. A simple, late-night trip to the corner store, something so ordinary, so familiar, became a doorway to something far older, far darker than anyone could have expected. Something lurking just beyond the reach of light. The shadow wasn't just a trick of the eye or a product of exhaustion. It was something ancient, something malevolent. A presence that claimed that place, and maybe, in some way, claimed the person who saw it. Mr. Kim disappeared without a trace. The store continued to operate under new ownership, but the story, the feeling, the shadow, it didn't vanish. Not really. And that's the terrifying truth about places like this. They might seem normal. They might blend into the background of our everyday lives. But if you look closely, if you listen carefully, you might just catch the edges of something else, a darkness that waits patiently in corners and quiet moments. The kind of darkness that feeds on fear. That watches. That waits. So next time you're out late, walking into a store, a gas station, or anywhere you feel alone and small in the vastness of the night, pay attention. Watch the shadows, listen for the silence, and trust your instincts. Because sometimes, when the lights flicker and the air grows cold, it's not just your imagination. Maybe that lurking shadow is still there, waiting for the next visitor. And if you do see it, don't look too long. Don't try to understand. Just get out. Because once it notices you, well, it might already be too late. Until next time, sweet dreams, and keep your lights on, and your eyes open. Hey, horror fans. If you enjoyed our chilling tale and want to keep the spine-tingling stories coming, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Share this video with your friends, let's spread the fear together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a hair-raising moment. Join our community of thrill seekers and prepare for more eerie adventures. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared.